My name is Sarah, and at 35 years old, I never expected to spend a decade of my life meticulously pretending to be broke, only to then reveal I was a millionaire. If you're wondering why anyone would choose to live a lie for 10 long years, enduring pity and judgment, just to pull off the most shocking reveal of their life, stick around. This story isn't just about money. It's about testing the true nature of humanity, about loyalty, and about the brutal cost of a secret. Before we dive into this unbelievable journey, do me a favor. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that like button if you're ready for a story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about people, and subscribe to witness every jaw-dropping twist and turn. You won't believe what happens next. My childhood was a stark lesson in scarcity. We lived in a cramped, two-bedroom apartment in the heart of the city, a place where the peeling wallpaper in the kitchen seemed to mock our constant struggle. The air always smelled faintly of cheap instant coffee and the lingering scent of my father's worn-out mechanic's uniform. Through the thin walls, I could hear the constant hum of the city, the distant sirens, and the muffled arguments of our neighbors, a symphony of urban life that underscored our precarious existence. My parents, bless their hearts, worked tirelessly, their hands rough, their faces etched with worry lines. My father, Thomas, would come home smelling of grease and oil, his shoulders slumped, but he always had a tired smile for me. My mother, Maria, juggled two cleaning jobs, her fingers perpetually chapped from harsh detergents. They instilled in me a fierce work ethic and a deep appreciation for every single penny. I was an only child, and their hopes and dreams rested heavily on my young shoulders. I saw their sacrifices, the worn-out shoes, the skipped meals, the quiet despair in their eyes when bills piled up. I swore to myself, a silent promise whispered into my threadbare pillow, that I would break the cycle. I would make enough money to give them comfort, to erase the worry from their faces, to buy them a life free from the constant grind. I worked every odd job imaginable from the moment I was legally able, washing cars, mowing lawns, stocking shelves at the local grocery store. I was loyal to my parents, always bringing home every dime, always trying to ease their burden. I was generous, sharing my meager earnings with them, insisting they buy something nice for themselves, even if it was just a new pair of socks. I genuinely believed that if I worked hard enough, if I was good enough, I could change our fate. My path to success wasn't paved with privilege. It was a grueling, uphill battle, fought with sheer grit and an insatiable hunger to escape the poverty trap. I discovered my talent for coding in high school, spending countless hours in the dusty school computer lab long after everyone else had gone home. The flickering screen became my sanctuary, the lines of code a language that made sense to me, a world where logic and creativity could combine to build something tangible. I devoured every book, every online tutorial I could find, fueled by cheap energy drinks and the burning desire to prove myself. I knew I couldn't afford a fancy university, so I taught myself, piece by piece, late into the night, after working my minimum wage jobs. My first major break came when I developed a niche app, a productivity tool that unexpectedly gained traction among a small but dedicated user base. It wasn't an overnight sensation, but it was enough to get me noticed. I landed a junior developer role at a small tech startup, a place where the coffee was terrible and the hours were long, but the potential was immense. I poured every ounce of my energy into that job, learning, growing, absorbing everything I could. I saved every penny, lived frugally, and invested wisely in the company's stock options. The startup soared, riding the wave of a new tech boom. Within 5 years, my stock options had vested, and the company was acquired for a massive sum. My share, after taxes, was a staggering $10 million. I was 25 years old, and I was a millionaire. The money hit my account like a tidal wave, a dizzying, life-altering sum. I could have bought a mansion, a sports car, anything I wanted, but I didn't. I kept it a secret. A profound, unsettling question had been brewing in my mind for years. If I suddenly became rich, would the people around me change? Would my family, my friends, still see me, or would they only see the money? I decided to find out. For the next 10 years, I meticulously maintained the facade of a struggling, working-class gal. I continued to live in a modest apartment, drove an old, beat-up car, and dressed in clothes from discount stores. I told my parents I was doing okay, still working as a software engineer, but always complaining about the rising cost of living, the stagnant wages. They would nod sympathetically, offering me small, often unsolicited, financial help, a few $100s for rent, a grocery gift card. My heart would ache with a strange mix of guilt and gratitude. I'd accept it, forcing a grateful smile, knowing full well I had millions sitting in a discreet investment portfolio. My old friends, the ones from the neighborhood, would invite me to cheap dinners, splitting the bill down to the last cent. I'd always make sure to contribute, sometimes even forgetting my wallet so they'd cover me, only to pay them back later, making a show of counting out small bills. It was an elaborate, exhausting performance, a constant tightrope walk between maintaining the illusion and not hurting the people I cared about. The betrayal, when it finally came, wasn't a sudden, dramatic explosion, but a slow, insidious creep that made my stomach clench with a sickening dread. It started subtly with my cousin Daniel. He was always the entrepreneurial type, full of big ideas but short on execution. He approached me with a can't-miss business opportunity, a dubious cryptocurrency venture. "Sarah, I know you're struggling, but this is a chance for both of us to get rich," he'd say, his eyes gleaming with false promise. I politely declined, citing my limited funds. He persisted, growing increasingly pushy, his words laced with thinly veiled contempt for my perceived lack of ambition. "You're too cautious, Sarah. That's why you're still stuck in that tiny apartment." Then came my best friend, Mark. We'd been inseparable since childhood, sharing secrets, dreams, and countless cheap coffees. He was always there for me, or so I thought. He started asking for loans, small amounts at first, then larger sums, always with a sob story about unexpected bills or a sick relative. I gave him money, always making it seem like a sacrifice, like I was barely scraping by myself. He never paid me back. Not once. And then, I overheard him talking at a mutual friend's birthday party. He didn't know I was in earshot, hidden behind a tall bookshelf. "Sarah? Oh, she's a good person, but she's always been a bit of a dreamer, hasn't she? No real drive. Still living paycheck to paycheck. It's a shame, really." My blood ran cold. My hands started to shake. The words hit me like a physical blow, a betrayal so profound it stole my breath. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect, about how they truly saw me when they thought I had nothing to offer. The facade, built on years of careful pretense, suddenly felt like a cage, trapping me with people who judged me for my perceived poverty, while secretly exploiting my generosity. The laughter, the shared struggles, the bonds I thought were unbreakable, all felt like a lie. And then, the ultimate gut punch. My parents, the very reason I started the charade, began to subtly pressure me. "Sarah, your old friend Mrs. Jenkins down the street, her daughter just bought a new house. She's a manager at a bank now. Why aren't you moving up? Are you happy with your life?" Their words, though seemingly innocent, cut deeper than any insult. They were disappointed in me, in my perceived lack of success, even as I secretly held millions. The irony was a bitter, nauseating taste in my mouth. My heart raced, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. The weight of the secret, the years of pretense, suddenly felt unbearable. I knew, with a chilling certainty, that it was time for the truth to come out. But how? And what would happen when it did? The period after that overheard conversation was a strange blend of simmering anger and meticulous planning. The sting of Mark's words, the subtle disappointment from my parents, and Daniel's relentless opportunism all coalesced into a fierce determination. The decade-long charade had served its purpose, revealing the true colors of those around me. Now it was time for the reveal. I spent 6 weeks quietly preparing, consulting with a financial advisor, Ms. Anya Sharma, who specialized in discreet wealth management, and a media consultant, Mr. Ben Carter, who understood the power of a well-timed story. I wanted the reveal to be impactful, undeniable, and to leave no room for doubt. I didn't want to just tell them. I wanted to show them in a way that would force them to confront their own biases and assumptions. There were moments of doubt, of course. What if the reveal backfired? What if it destroyed what little was left of my relationships? But the anger, the feeling of being judged and exploited for my perceived poverty, pushed me forward. I thought about all the times I'd pretended to struggle, the times I'd let them pay for my coffee, the times I'd listened to their condescending advice about making something of myself. The emotional toll of maintaining the lie had been immense, a constant performance that chipped away at my authentic self. I felt isolated, trapped by my own secret. But now, that secret was my weapon, my tool for truth. I decided to host a small, intimate gathering, inviting my parents, Mark, Daniel, and a few other close friends who had been part of my poor life. I told them it was a celebration of a new chapter, a vague enough invitation to pique their curiosity. The air in the room, on the night of the party, was thick with anticipation, a subtle hum of polite conversation masking the underlying currents of judgment and expectation. They still saw Sarah, the struggling software engineer. They had no idea what was coming. The plot twist was meticulously planned, designed to hit them with the force of a freight train. The party was in a rented, unassuming event space, nothing flashy, still maintaining the illusion of my modest means. Everyone arrived, offering their usual condolences about my tough luck and their unsolicited advice. Mark clapped me on the back. "Good to see you, buddy. Still fighting the good fight, huh?" Daniel cornered me, pitching another groundbreaking crypto scheme. My parents, though outwardly polite, subtly steered the conversation towards my lack of career progression. The air was thick with their assumptions, their pity, their subtle condescension. Then I stood up, tapping a glass for attention. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady, betraying none of the tremor in my hands. "I wanted to share some news. For the past 10 years, I've been living a bit of a double life." A ripple of nervous laughter went through the room. They thought I was going to announce a new, modest job or maybe even a small lottery win. I paused, letting the silence build, letting their expectations solidify. "You see," I continued, 10 years ago, I became a millionaire." The laughter died. Faces went slack. A few people exchanged confused glances. My parents' eyes widened, a mixture of disbelief and dawning horror. Mark's jaw dropped. Daniel looked like he'd been slapped. My company, the one I joined right out of college, was acquired. My stock options vested. It was a substantial amount. Over $10 million. I then pulled out my phone, connected it to a large screen I had discreetly set up, and displayed a screenshot of my current investment portfolio, a dizzying array of numbers, stocks, and assets totaling over $50 million. The room went completely silent, save for a few stunned gasps. "For 10 years, I said, my voice rising. I watched. I listened. I saw who truly cared about me, not my perceived status. I saw who offered genuine help and who offered pity mixed with judgment. I saw who tried to exploit my poverty for their own gain." I looked directly at Daniel. "Daniel, your crypto schemes? I knew they were scams. I let you pitch them, just to see how far you'd go." His face was ashen. Then I turned to Mark. "Mark, those loans you never repaid? I knew you were taking advantage. I wanted to see if you'd ever show an ounce of integrity." His face crumpled. And finally, I looked at my parents, their faces a mixture of shock, confusion, and a burgeoning shame. "Mom, Dad, you always worried about my financial stability. You offered me small sums, thinking I needed them. I accepted, because I wanted to see if your love was truly unconditional, or if it was tied to the image of the successful daughter you wanted." My voice cracked slightly, a raw emotion breaking through. Turns out it was the latter. The air was thick with tension, with shattered illusions, and with the undeniable truth. The power had shifted completely. I wasn't the struggling Sarah anymore. I was the millionaire who had just pulled back the curtain on a decade-long social experiment. The confrontation that followed was less a dramatic explosion and more a series of stunned, desperate attempts at damage control. My father, his face pale, stammered, "Sarah, what is this? Why would you do this to us?" My mother started to cry, not tears of remorse, but tears of embarrassment and confusion. "How could you hide this? All these years we worried." Mark, his voice shaking, tried to defend himself. "Sarah, come on, you know I'm good for it. I was just going through a rough patch." Daniel, ever the opportunist, immediately pivoted. "Sarah, this changes everything. We should partner. Imagine what we could do with that kind of capital." Their reactions were exactly what I had expected: self-preservation, denial, and a desperate scramble to reframe the situation to their benefit. "Why?" I repeated, my voice steady, cutting through their protests. "Because I wanted to know. I wanted to know if the people I loved, the people I called friends, would value me for who I am or for what I have. I wanted to know if your concern was genuine or if it was pity or worse, a subtle form of judgment for not meeting your expectations." I looked at my parents. "You always pushed me to be successful, but when I showed you a different kind of success, one that didn't fit your mold, you disowned me. And when I was successful, beyond your wildest dreams, you couldn't even see it because you were too busy judging my perceived lack." I turned to Mark. "You called me a loser behind my back while I was giving you money I didn't have. That wasn't friendship, Mark. That was exploitation." And to Daniel, "Your opportunities were always about you, never about genuinely helping anyone but yourself." There was no anger in my voice, only a profound sadness and a quiet, unshakable resolve. Justice wasn't about punishing them. It was about revealing the truth, about forcing them to confront their own hypocrisy, and about reclaiming my own narrative. It was about showing them and myself that true worth isn't measured by a bank account, but by the integrity of one's character. Life after the revelation was a complex tapestry of liberation and unexpected challenges. The immediate aftermath was messy. Some relationships, like those with Mark and Daniel, dissolved completely, their true nature exposed beyond repair. My parents, initially shocked and defensive, eventually came to a grudging acceptance, though the dynamic between us was irrevocably changed. There was no grand reconciliation, no sudden outpouring of unconditional love. Instead, there was a quiet, awkward respect, tinged with regret on their part. They never asked for money again, nor did they offer me unsolicited advice about my career. They saw me differently now, not as their struggling daughter, but as someone who had played a long, elaborate game and won. The greatest change was within myself. The decade of pretense had been emotionally draining, a constant performance that had left me feeling isolated. But the reveal, though painful for some, was incredibly liberating for me. I no longer had to hide. I could be my authentic self, pursue my passions openly, and build relationships based on genuine connection, not on a fabricated persona. I used my wealth to invest in causes I believed in, supporting struggling artists and small, ethical businesses, remembering my own humble beginnings. I learned that money doesn't change who you are, but it reveals who the people around you truly are. It taught me that true friendship and unconditional love are priceless, and often found in the most unexpected places, not necessarily among those you've known the longest. The scars of the past, the moments of loneliness and judgment, remain, but they are now lessons, not wounds. They are a testament to the strength forged in the crucible of a secret life, and the profound satisfaction of living truthfully, finally. So, what's the actionable wisdom you can take from my story? First, always prioritize authenticity over appearance. Living a lie, no matter how well-intentioned, comes at a profound emotional cost. Second, true character is revealed not by what people say when you're up, but by how they treat you when they think you're down. Pay attention to those subtle cues. They tell you everything you need to know. And finally, sometimes, the most powerful way to find truth is to create the conditions for it to reveal itself. My extreme method taught me invaluable lessons about human nature and the true meaning of connection. Have you ever felt judged for your circumstances? Or perhaps discovered the true colors of someone you thought you knew? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's build a community where we can discuss the complexities of human relationships, the challenges of authenticity, and the triumphs of self-discovery. Hit that like button if this story resonated with you, and subscribe to join us as we continue to explore the incredible, often shocking, but always illuminating truths that life throws our way. The journey of self-discovery is ongoing, and your voice is a crucial part of it.